for the home team. This was for the home team.
Yeah, man. So we'll do a little cheers to get it started off.
Cheers.
Cheers to you being here for the second time, first time headlining.
There we go.
Welcome to Tailgate Beers. Austin here, Ryan here. Today, we got Josh Ross.
What's going on? Here we are.
Excited?
Having a beverage. We're good. Yeah, dude, I'm excited.
And you were in Canada Tuesday?
We were in Canada Tuesday. We had the Canadian Awards last week, which was cool. It's always cool to go home and just like see how much progress has happened there. And I moved 6 years ago. It was 6 years November that I moved to Nashville. So it's like I left before I had anything going on in Canada, and it's been really cool to see like that kind of grow as stuff's growing in the U.S. too. So
And I saw you brought home some hardware from.
we did. We won
awards,
5 awards. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
dude.
No, it was really special. I mean, I'm very thankful for all the awards. The one I really wanted was Entertainer. I just felt like we played a lot of shows this year, and that's something I'm very passionate on is the show part of it. So yeah, really cool.
Do you have friends, family, anybody up there still? Is that a
Yeah,
home
so
town?
my immediate family, so like my mom, dad, grandparents, brother, sister are there.
Yeah.
All my aunts, uncles, and cousins are all in the States though. So it's interesting. I grew up going to Santa Monica to see one side of my family, and then my other side of the family was in Maine on the East Coast. So I was always used to going to the coasts.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So were they anybody present at it or?
For that, no. But they come out to shows like we're going to do the Troubadour here in a little bit, and it's always cool like going to LA and see the family there, and I get to Maine, and it's in a weird way it's kind of like brought my family closer, like because now everybody will like come to shows together, and yeah, it's special. I mean, there's so many years growing up where families are just so busy, and my parents are busy, and my cousin's parents are busy, so it's like to be able to like find time to like grow up together was always kind of hard. So it's cool now that we're in our 20s and some of us are getting older, and we're able to kind of spend time as family now. So
Yeah.
So growing up, I know you were a fairly good high level football player.
yeah,
Did all of that, and then kind of went into music. So talk to us about kind of that transition or how that took route.
I mean, sports was just never sports was a cool thing. Like music was not even an option. I think, it was just like, I kind of felt like a baby if I like was like like into music or something like that. So it was mandatory that you played hockey growing up, obviously in Canada. So I did that for 14, 15 years, and then got into football. Same time I was still racing motocross. My dad's a huge motocross advocate since he raced when he was a kid, and then got me into it at a super young age. So it was between motocross and football, and then I took a Canadian football scholarship to University College in London, Ontario, where we just played this past Tuesday, which was a cool full circle moment to just go back before coming down here. And but yeah, I played 3 years there and had 2 ankle surgeries and was just like kind of screw this. Like I was just like, what am I getting out of this? It was to the point where, playing the CFL is really, really great, and the CFL is a cool league, but it's a lot of hard work, and the money's not always the greatest. So it was like, what do I really want to do? And I started falling in love with music, picked up the guitar, started playing cover songs, playing like coffee shops on campus, and then there's a festival in Canada that I entered in and did an emerging artist showcase in 2017, and that kind of led me to realizing that my songs weren't great yet, and I needed to get to Nashville and had a lot of catching up to do. So shortly moved and started going there in 2018.
What do you think is something about Canada that you miss being here, or something that you always are like, go back home? And what's something about Canada that people wouldn't?
Dude, it's so weird because it's like really not different, especially like even in this area. I'm like, it's so like similar. Like
Really?
pulling in here, I'm just
I've
like,
never been to Canada.
yeah, it's just, I mean, it's like going to like Michigan, like northern Michigan, or like, there's parts of Michigan that are higher than north than where I was born. Like, so it's always interesting that people like think it's so far, but it's like there's certain states that are like way higher.
In Michigan,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
So I've been over one time, and it was from Detroit area.
Right.
And just went.
Yeah, so I grew up like
bridge.
3 hours from Detroit. The Ambassador Bridge was like Windsor,
Yeah,
and then I went to school.
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
There's a casino somewhere
Yeah.
before. Casinos were real big in the States back. I mean, this was 20 years ago now, but
If you go up there and drink, because you'd be like 19, you
Yeah.
could drink.
absolutely.
So like a lot of Detroit people like go over, or some of the schools in there. But yeah, no, I mean, I think for me now it's just family. It's the only thing I like miss. Like I have some nieces and nephews, and just seeing how fast they're growing, or my grandparents are getting older and stuff like that. I think that's kind of been put into perspective a lot this last year. We've been gone a lot, and I've only got to go home once. So in a year, family really changes a lot when they're like little kids, and as they're getting grandparents are getting older. So, but yeah, in regards to I mean, it's so similar. You know, the food's quite similar, very Americanized, and then the countryside of it's just different. It's like very northern country versus like southern hot, you know, in Nashville.
Right.
So
you're playing cover songs, you're doing the coffee shops and those kind of things that you mentioned, and then, you know, what is the decision? Where is the decision? Say, hey, I gotta get down to Nashville. I gotta take that leap.
I just, because like when I really, and this is just who I am as a person, and it's literally, it could be the littlest thing. Like right now, buying a house and I'm fixated on a pond, and I'm like I'm learning everything about ponds and stocking ponds, and like when I just get fixated on something, I was just beyond fixated on. I was like, I want to do this. I have to do this. I mean, I did take a year of taking trips. Like I would go for a month and I'd come back for a couple and make some more money. Because being Canadian, you couldn't make money in the U.S. either. So I couldn't go get a job at Starbucks. So I could only like work for cash, which I'm not even really supposed to say. But
you couldn't work in the States.
You have to have a visa, like a work permit.
Work visa,
Yeah. So like I built furniture for the first, I mean, 6 months to a year, 9 months to a year. I would do like coffee tables and end tables and shit.
Yeah.
Pretend like it was for sale on Facebook Marketplace.
We're in the market for one.
This,
yeah,
this is, but no, like honestly, like I would like pretend like this was for sale, and I hadn't made it yet. Like I took photos from a company that built furniture in Australia.
So
and
once you got the order,
once I got the order, I'd go to Home Depot that next day and be like, "Oh, you can come pick it up tomorrow." And it would take me like an hour and a half to make it. Like I'd build it and then stain it, and then they'd come pick it up that night or the next day. And I did
everything's
that.
still wet.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And you know, but the coolest full circle thing, I'm trying to remember where it was. I think it was, where was it? We were in Arizona. No, Arizona. And this girl, it was Arizona, with Nickelback. And this girl had come to a show with her family. Her family had a summer home there. And she came, she's like, I bought a coffee table from you in Nashville, which was like
Josh Ross original.
She's like the weirdest thing. She's like, you're not going to remember me, but I bought a coffee table. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing. But
she's like, it's in the vehicle. If you can come sign it.
You come sign it.
Sign it. That you have a Josh Ross original.
It goes full circle.
Oh yeah. A lot of like random stuff I had to do to kind of make it work early on. And then, I mean, I used to sleep in my car and.
Well, so go back to that story and however much you've shared or want to share.
Yeah.
That story is crazy and I've got to hear it from you. But for people that don't know, so you're how old and you are getting into music, and how did that start of you saying, I'm leaving?
I mean, I just got out of college, so I would have been, 22-ish. And I wanted to be here. Like, it was so tough. And I used to lie to my parents and ask them to help pay for my rent early on. And I would actually use it to get like demos, and I was like working on like singles and EPs then. And there was honestly times where I had a Pontiac Vibe, which was like a hatchback. Oh, yeah. It was like the same as like a Toyota Matrix or whatever. It was the greatest car ever. It had like 400,000 miles on it. It was just a beast. front bumper was all like duct taped and zip tied, all still on. And I used to take it around the motocross track in Canada and like all this crazy. Like this car had been through everything. But I used to have like a foam topper, and I just have it in the back, and it was like a queen size almost in the back, and I would just chill out. Shout out to Sony Publishing. I used to sleep in their parking lot all the time. And I mean, I definitely tell the story, but I'm also just like, I think a lot of people, it's just the depth of how long, to be here today. And it's just really cool. Like the full circle stuff, it wasn't a TikTok overnight that like changed my life. And I love the social tools and all that, but I'm again, very passionate on like, we've been grinding it for a lot of years, and it's cool to start seeing things happening.
So you're down in Nashville, you come from Canada.
Yep.
How did you get introduced, or how did you end up meeting? Was it from the parking lot, or was it from like?
It was from like meeting people.
So you're just in Sony parking lot, and then you're going around Nashville.
I'd go. I used to go out. I used to, like, I mean, I spent the other half of my money going out and drinking and meeting people. Yep. Like Red Door was like my spot for sure, and a lot of dark nights and good nights, and then there, so there was nights that were definitely incredible. I met great people, and then nights that were a little tough, but things it was just like someday I would like to like make like a tree of like, here's the one person I knew when I came to town, and how that all branched out. But what really changed for me is I actually went to the Canadian Awards in 2017, kind of like snuck into some stuff, and it was in Calgary, and Morgan was there, and he was the guest artist because he was on Big Loud, and they had like Dial Smith and some other people, and Chief was there, and it was like late night again. Sometimes it's good to go out. It was 2:00 in the morning, and I went across from the hotel, and there was this little dive bar, and Morgan was there. He just had Chasing You at radio at the time, and I literally went up to him. I was like, dude, I'm just a fan of the song, and we had a shot, and then the entire night we're all hanging out, and he's like, these guys can change your life. And it was a lot of the big loud staff. And so I met Chief and them all that day, and then the next day at this like conference that they had, and I gave them my information. I got Chief's number, and I sent Chief songs until 2021. Like literally like 3-4 years of just sending him stuff, and he's like, not ready yet, or like getting better. I'm glad, moved to Nashville. That was his one big thing, was like get to Nashville and start, diving in on that. And then in 2021, I got like a random, or 22, I got like a random text message from him, and they're on like a big long table on this like Zoom call with Universal, and they're like, we're talking about you. It was like, and I was just like, wow. But it took, time.
Yeah.
Nothing that I think I've done has been quick. And sometimes that can be like, I would say, very frustrating in this industry that's like, everything's so disposable, like whether it be songs or teasing songs. And we were just talking about like, when are you going to put this song out or this song out? It's like, it's so interesting because music now, sadly, I feel like it's like scrolling on social media, and like, there's a lot of songs that are so incredible that are never going to see, a long, longevity of a song. Right. So it's interesting because I was still old school in a certain way, but then I'm like, okay, I'm fitting in with the TikTok era and the social media, and I enjoy it. It's just, it's an interesting time in music for sure.
I mean, it's a weird time that I'm watching all these people literally just sit and lip sync to the video, and it's like, this is what's getting views, and it's actually crazy. But so what was that song that got their attention? What was that song?
It was called First Taste of Gone. And it was just a story that, it was honestly, as a songwriter, it was the first time I remember, like 2018, 19, 2020, really just trying to write what was like on the charts, and like trying to like fit in with like what was mainstream or whatever it was. And I think by the time you figure that out, it's already changed again. And I had kind of started to go through like a breakup situation in 2021, and got in the writing room, and the main line was, the girl was up in Canada, said 700 miles away, moving on, and getting my first taste of Gone. And honestly, again, going out every once in a while is not a bad thing. I was sitting at a bar with my best friend, one of my best friends, Mason Thornley, who I wrote it with, and he literally bought me a Jack and Coke and said, dude, everything's gonna be all right. Cheers to your first taste of Gone. I was like, this is a great idea. And that's what that song, we wrote it within probably 45 minutes, and I walked out and I was like, this is me. I feel like this is something I want to say. It was a little more like raw and emotional, and I had not really done that yet. And then, that was the song that I put independently to Canadian radio, got like some of my first playlisting on like the New Boots and Spotify playlists, and first time in town where people were like, oh, there's that Josh Grosh guy, sings that the First Taste of Gone song. And it was kind of cool to see kind of that start to happen. So that was the song that definitely did things. And then I would say Trouble was the big one that like kind of changed everything, especially on like socials and DSPs and stuff. Yeah.
Cause me and Wayne do this thing where I look back through my text messages and my history of when I mentioned somebody, and then I'll scroll back. And today I looked back, and the first time I sent it in June of 21, and I sent Tall Boys. But I think the only reason it grabbed my attention is
Tailgate, Tall Boys.
Tailgate and Tall Boys.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm not saying that's not a great song, but I look back, and then we mentioned it a couple other times.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is I went through my list of what I sent Wayne, and this was June of 21. And then it was May of 22, and I sent a list of names for the festival.
Yeah.
And those names were 6040, Connor Smith, Patrick Droney, Zach Bryan, and Josh Ross and Jake Scott.
No way.
Were just some random names that I ran through with Wayne.
Yeah.
And I look back through that list, I was like, holy crap, what 3 or 4 years, what a couple of years can do.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. That's just cool to like hear, like, I don't know. It's interesting. And we came here and played with Bailey, and again, it's like full circle to come here, and we opened for Bailey. I'm trying to think. I think it was in was it November of 22? It's probably almost 2 years.
Yeah. No, it's definitely been 2 years. I think it's 2 years.
I think it was the fall of 22.
It was definitely cooler out, wasn't it? Summertime.
Yeah. I remember playing Tall Boys in Soundcheck, and Wayne just like looked up and was like, hey, that's kind of a cool song. Kind of fits with the brand, and had no idea who I was. I was just opening for Bailey, and but then again, it's like, friendships happen and things start to happen, and again, it's like you meet that next person that brings you to this. Now we're playing festivals, and it's cool because there was a time where like I played 10 shows in a year, and then this year we're doing like 150. So it's like I'm very grateful for the the relationships and the people you meet along the way, and it's been badass.
So I want to ask some questions about the shows and the touring you're doing. Some of you said you mentioned opening for Bailey, and I know you mentioned opening for others too.
Yeah.
What's that been like? I mean, just going from, like you said, a handful of shows to being out on the road so much.
Yeah, I mean, my first real tour. I mean, I did a run with Lee Bryce, which was like 12 dates at the top of 23, and then the rest of 23 was Nickelback. Nickelback was like my first real big tour, and set the bar so high, like it was crazy. I mean, those guys are so awesome. They're still so badass, so talented.
I've heard a lot of great things about Chad and taking guys under his wing.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the case
It's
too?
crazy. Like I'll just get like a random FaceTime from him, and it's genuinely just like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Do you got new songs to send me? You know, like those kinds of conversations, and made me really learn like how to treat people. I think again, we're in an industry where things are so quick and things are happening, and it's easy to just kind of like brush people off or like not pay attention to the friendships that like actually matter. So I really learned a lot from them, whether it had been, you know, the backstage vibes to everybody's welcome and family. There's a common drinking room. We would do radio room together. It wasn't like we do this and don't be around us, and, you know, don't bring these people around. It was very like open door family, but respectful, like within respect. But yeah, that set the bar really high. And then we were doing some random dates with Bailey last year in 23, and then it led to his tour this year, which was incredible. I think we did close to 30 dates and got to do the UK together, which was cool. First time over there, and just seeing where like music translates too. It's wild. Like it made me realize I could probably go back there and do, you know, a small headline tour, which would be really, really cool. And I think we're even looking at that for potentially next year. So it's really, it's neat. And then, yeah, all the festivals, we've done so many festivals and flying everywhere. It's like this year we kind of just pull the map up and we like threw a bunch of darts at it, and we're like, okay, how do we get from here to there to there? And then we go to Australia in November, which will be really cool too. So
It's hard to stay on top of all of you guys' dates and all the things you guys have going on. But I do try to look and see, and I feel like there's people that take this time off, you know, and they're writing and they're doing stuff, but every time I look, I'm like, you're on another tour.
Yeah.
You're doing your own tour. You're gone. I'm like, does this dude ever stop touring?
It's been an interesting year.
It's gotta get exhausting.
It's been a year where I'm like, I'm genuinely learning my pushed limit. Like it's been, the hardest thing is just staying healthy. And then like you want to have fun certain nights, and then, you know, you're a little hungover, and then you run down, you get a cold or whatever it is. And I mean, whether you drink or not or any of that kind of stuff, like it's not easy, and it's the traveling's, you know, is the hard part of it. I'm not, you know, always the greatest sleeper either, but I mean, not like bragging, but I doubt that there's another country I would honestly say this year that's done as many shows as we have. Like I genuinely think we're probably in the top 2%.
Absolutely.
But I love it. Luckily, I love it. I think this year was the testing, like the tell all of, do I really love doing this? Because it's a lot. Both on, you know, I get back to town and it's like, okay, I haven't been there, so got to write, got to record, got to get photos done, videos done, whatever. So it's been a true year of no fun, like outside of music. So
what's been a situation or a person that this year has been just kind of a highlight? Like, dude, I can't believe, almost like a fanboy, or just an opportunity that you're just like, I can't believe this is my life.
Yeah, like certain shows, like the Royal Albert Hall in the UK was like, you know, like a legendary venue. It's like the Ryman, you know, over there. It's like just super ancient, like stuff like that's just like super cool. And then, yeah, people, I don't get like starstruck, you know, it's really weird in the sense of like, especially musically, you know, growing up, I was like fan of certain like movie stars and stuff like that. But never got really to like spend time with them. The Julia Michaels song that we put out together was really special. It was cool. It had Hardy's voice on it, and I was just like, I love this song, and I've always been a huge fan of her. I mean, she's such a great songwriter, huge in the pop world. So that was really cool, and I think that kind of opened a lot of doors. And we have something coming next year that I'm not really allowed to say yet.
With her?
No, somebody else that is definitely the most fanboy situation I've been in.
A female?
It's male.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll say that.
All right.
Very, very excited about it. It's just I have so many musical influences, and it makes total sense, and it makes sense for me, which I'm really excited about. So
what type of, I mean, are you writing a lot now on the road? Or I feel like right now you're probably in that just tour.
It's been bad. Like, and I think that, you know, that's a part that, like the writing was like my therapy, and and then like, you know, my outlet. And it's been interesting. I've maybe wrote, you know, 20-25 days this year. So this whole fall, like I got 2 writing retreats booked, and I think I'm going to go to LA, and then we're going to do one in Nashville. And just really November, December is a year of content that I've put in my phone, and whether it be the relationships I've been through, you know, the kind of stuff that's gone on, and learning all this, I'm just excited to kind of get back to writing, because I feel like we've been playing these songs hardcore for almost 2 years. So
Just listening earlier to a conversation before we got on camera about a song that you've written, and I won't talk about any names or anything like that. Just from the industry standpoint, for folks like me who don't understand how that works or how this works. So you write a song, you know, somebody else has interest in that song. They kind of put a hold on it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I genuinely just gotta. For a long time, all the songs I wrote, I was like, these are my songs, and you know, I don't want to keep them. I don't want to give them away. And then it's gotten to the point now where I'm like, okay, I have 250 songs that I've wrote, you know, and it's like, I'm not going to cut all these. And like some of the other people that I wrote those songs with messaged me, and they're like, are you okay if we pitch this to such and such? It feels like a good fit, or they like it. And that's the cool part that I'm excited that I'm starting to kind of get into, is like the songwriting for other people's side. It's always been kind of just about me and trying to figure that out. So it's cool.
Do you still have that same feeling for that song if somebody else puts it out rather than you?
I think I'd be more upset if it does. In one way, you'll be really upset if it does really well, but you're like,
Right.
I'm making money off of it, that, you know, or like, you know, I'm getting maybe more known as a songwriter. And I think that's another whole part of it that I'm excited to develop. But definitely if it's like a super personal song, I have a hard time letting those ones go. The one that recently that I let go is just, it's more fun and kind of more of a boppy song. So yeah. But I walked into this bar, and there was this girl that I had a crush on all through high school, and in Canada.
Whoa.
And I walk in the door, and she was standing there at the bar in Losers.
Wow.
So I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so cool, meant to be, you know, like I had a couple drinks. I was feeling pretty good about myself. So I bought her a drink and walked up to her, and like immediately as I went to like give it to her, like friend that I also knew like bumped into me, and she's like, she's got a boyfriend, like don't be doing that. I was like, okay. So I talked to her like for 5 minutes, and she just filled me in quick what they were doing on their trip. And then I just said, like, kind of drunkenly, I was like, well, if it doesn't, you know, work out, let me know if you're ever single again. And then I was like, single again, kind of cool idea. Put it in my phone, and wrote that almost 4 years later. I mean, I was in kind of like a toxic relationship for a while. I just like to write where I'm at in life, or like kind of what's going on in my life. And it never really made sense to write that song at the time, like where I was in life. And then coming out of that, I was like, a single again was kind of fun, and it kind of was fun for me too. So I wrote that with Brad Rumpel and Joe Fox, and yeah, it was interesting, right?
So your relationship with Raised Rowdy, I mean, how is that? Just a you being in Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, they were like, Nikki T was probably, and Matt. I think Matt was actually, Matt was one of the first people that ever put me on a round in town.
Sick.
When he used to do his rounds, and then knew the Raised Rowdy folks, and again was like, I was at Live Oak going to those rounds every night. Like every night that they had a round, I was there, and whether I was playing or I was socializing, became friends with them. We'd go to Red Door after, we'd do parties after at the apartment that I was living in, and Nikki T and I had some late nights together, and interesting nights that I will not speak of, but
they were at Bama, the Florida Bama bar. I'm in bed, and again, I'm a late night person. It's like 1 a.m, and my phone's like buzzing. This is like a week ago, and it's Nick just FaceTiming over and over and over. And I text him, I'm like, having fun. And then the next morning I get all these texts of them at the Florida Bama bar. And
I've watched the sun come up with him a couple times, and it's been interesting. So that was just fun.
That was a Cliffy D, shout out Cliffy. He messaged us one day and was like, hey, you should talk to these Raised Rowdy guys down here in Nashville. I personally did not know anything about who they were.
Right.
But he goes, they just love to come and have fun at the festival. So they showed up 2023 to Bloomington, tent camped the entire time, hot as hell. I mean, horrible.
Yeah.
And made the best of it all. Yeah. And then the following year, I was like, guys, we need to do more.
Is that when we did the outdoor? I did like a podcast with them outside on the lawn chairs in the grass.
That's when we just called Wayne up, and I said, Wayne, you need to come out here.
Come over here.
Wayne like comes rolling up.
We had a
and then I'm like,
we had a
hey, by the way,
together.
you're sitting down on a podcast.
Yeah.
And funny story about that, which I've told one other time, was on our way up to Michigan to the festival. Wayne cannot drive more than 30 minutes without falling asleep. So I drive everywhere, which sucks. But I like driving. So Wayne is, I mean, just sawing logs, just passed out. And I'm like, oh shit! Like 2 weeks ago, the podcast came out from the festival.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. I turn it on. I'm through every music. It's 7-hour drive, so I'm through every bit of music I can.
Right.
So I start listening to it. Wayne just wakes up out of dead sleep and goes, "What the fuck are we listening to?" He goes, "I hate the sound of my own voice."
What sound was the voice?
Pulls back over, goes to sleep. But yeah, that was the first year, and they made the most of it, and that's what I think
cool.
I love
Yeah.
about them.
They're just great dudes, and like they're doing it the right way. Like they actually genuinely care about the artists and the industry people, and like they're not just trying again to like get famous overnight by, you know.
Right. They love
Yeah.
the industry.
Yeah.
And so then when I called them and said, "You guys want to host this shit?" You guys, I mean, I don't know. A host thing is tough. Like I don't want to spend a crap ton of money, but it's nice having friends and
Yeah.
people that are growing at
Yeah.
the same rate.
And they're great talkers, great, you know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Matt, you know, sounds like he smoked, 3
Yeah.
packs of cigarettes.
It's
He's out
true.
there trying to yell.
He's
And
trying to yell.
he was like managing his voice throughout Clinton, and he got it down. But by Bloomington, which are back-to-back weekends, it was a lot on him. He's up there just screaming.
It's like singing. That half the battle is saving the voice. So
Yeah. So no, those guys are good. We
That was,
we love
just to
having them.
cut you off for a second. That was like my first introduction. So I've known Austin for a while, and I've been around Tailgate and Tall Boys. I've worked, have been there as a fan and consumer. I have seen Matt up on stage doing the hosting stuff. I've seen him doing some of the podcasts on the side. But as soon as Austin came to me and was like, "Hey, let's do a podcast," and the first call we made was to Matt.
Yeah, super cool.
And Matt said, absolutely.
It helps us every step of the way.
Talking about equipment, talking about do's and don'ts, and
Yeah.
and me asking stupid questions, and yeah, no, he was very supportive, and that was my first kind of taste into that world, and it was great.
So I know you have to get going here. I think you got a meet and greet and all that stuff, dude. We're excited to have you here at Cruisins again.
it's dope.
Hopefully, I mean, next year the festivals. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be back.
yeah, that's gonna be fun. So I usually ask one final question to it. It's something I've asked. A guy told me years ago, and I don't know. We've kind of made it a thing on the podcast. So, plane's going down.
Yep.
You got a parachute.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a parachute.
You have a parachute.
Wow, that's good.
Um,
Good setup.
And you just so happen to have access to every album that you possibly could ever have. But you can only take 5.
Every time we do this, he's adding more qualifiers.
Yeah, because I've had people kind of put holes in it and fuck it all up. At the end of the day, 5 albums for the rest of your life. I mean, what are you taking?
Probably one of the Eagles albums, Steve Earle, Guitar Town record, Akon record. Dang, man. Trying to think. Then the rest of them are all so close tie. Like I think of ones that are like so close to me as a kid.
When you get to 4 and 5, it becomes tough because there's newer ones that are
Yeah.
influencing, and some people go variety.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, those would be my staples, and then I probably would pick like one of like the Dangerous record by Morgan. I love that record. There's so many other things I would pick, like the Post Malone records, like is it like OG stuff. Yeah, the 3, 4, and 5 are tough for me. The first couple I like know for sure.
I love it.
But yeah, no, Steve Earle was like what got me into country music, and I was always an Akon fan. I had my brother and sister 10, 12 years older than me, so I like grew up listening to like all this like crazy pop shit too. So it's like
Some dude left a CD in one of our company trucks years ago, and it just so happened to be a Steve Earle CD,
dude, so good.
and I was
Just-
hooked.
I mean, that like 4 or 5 years old, I heard it, Copperhead Road for the first time, and not to like keep going on, but that's what really got me into country music, and I think he was just such a badass and way ahead of his time, like in regards to like being kind of like the rebel guy. It was an interesting time in country music then too, and he was kind of like, he was a little more like edgier and a little different, and I think if he was understood better, he would have been, I mean, he's to me is like one of the greats, but I think to everybody, but. Full circle moment with Nickelback. Chad calls me 3 days before we start that tour, and he goes, "Hey, you want to cover Copperhead Road every night?" And it was the coolest thing ever. So I got to do that for 50-something shows with him in Brantley, which was cool.
Stephen Wilson Jr. to me, I think is a
Badass.
So Earl, like,
Dude, so good.
I think every time of that's the closest artist that I can think of.
I mean, it's just
right
true.
now.
Like, again, like true stories, like true to your life. Like, it might not always be pretty. Like that was the thing with like Steve Earle or you know, and I try to do the same thing with my stuff. Again, it's that balance of fighting, like, how far can I go down the bad road and keep it on keep it on track. But also, you know, I still want to be like really truthful about the stuff that I battle with every day in my life, and whether it be my own emotions or relationships or me going out and partying too much, but then me now being healthy for 2 months. You know, I go through like these, I'm very black or very white, and it's very interesting. So
yeah.
Two different parts to the question. One is who are you looking up to in the industry right now that you want to emulate? They're doing the things right. They're doing things that you want to do. But then on the flip side, who are you taking underneath your wing to bring up to your level?
Yeah. I mean, that's so many different parts. I mean,
shout outs.
Yeah. Like as a songwriting, you know, like, there's so many great songwriters that I look up to, like even the Hardys, but then our performers. I think like I really admire him, and I've got to know him a little more over the last couple of years, but like really balancing that like artist songwriter life, I think is really interesting. Obviously people like Morgan, I'm like to see how much, you know, he's played here, and then to see what's happened in his career is crazy, in the trajectory of what it can be, and how, you know, how he gets there, and all that's really, you know, incredible. And then yeah, I mean, there's so many talented people coming up, and Brendan Wisham that we have tonight, shout out to him. He's got an incredible voice, big heart, and you know, the one thing I really hope for like the next wave of people, it's kind of weird to like think that's not maybe my wave anymore, but is just like, don't make songs like disposable, like please, like we're all just like fighting each other to like throw songs out, and then like the actual quality of stuff, it's again like, you know, quality over quantity, and trying to maintain that. So I think being like careful with what you put out and taking your time and making sure it's what you want to say versus what everybody's telling you should say is a big thing. So
that's valid.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So let's cheers again.
Cheers, boys. Thank you.
Tailgate Beers. Thank you, Josh.
Tailgate Beers. Thank you, guys.
We'll
We'll see you all.
Look forward to seeing you on stage tonight. Yes, sir.